One of the biggest names in the over-the-counter hearing aid market is winding down United States operations, which officially proves that I was completely wrong about OTC hearing aids.
We've got some breaking news tonight in the over-the-counter hearing aid market. LXE Hearing, the parent company behind popular OTC hearing aid brands Eargo, LXE, and Go Hearing, has just announced that it is winding down its U.S. operations. The move leaves thousands of customers questioning the future of product support, warranties, and software updates, while raising broader questions about the viability of the over-the-counter hearing aid market. The announcement comes less than 4 years after FDA regulations opened the door to over-the-counter hearing aids, reigniting debate over whether the industry can ever become a sustainable alternative to professionally delivered hearing care.
Hey guys, Cliff Olson, Doctor of Audiology and founder of Applied Hearing Solutions in Phoenix, Arizona. And to understand why this is such a huge story in the hearing aid industry, I really have to take you back a few years. In 2017, Congress directed the FDA to create a new category of over-the-counter hearing aids. The goals were very simple: to lower overall hearing aid prices, improve accessibility to hearing aid technology, and increase hearing aid adoption rates. In 2021, the FDA finally got around to releasing their initial proposed guidelines for OTC hearing aids, and everybody was super excited, myself included. Then in October of 2022, the FDA published their final guidelines, officially creating an over-the-counter hearing aid category, which is seen as the biggest disruption ever in the history of the hearing aid market. And the only people who were more excited than individuals with hearing loss themselves were the investors that were about to get in on the ground floor of a multi-billion-dollar industry. You see, even before OTC hearing aids were even a thing, there were companies like Eargo and Bose that were already selling hearing aids direct to consumer. In fact, in October of 2020, Eargo went public, and they reached a peak of $1,168.20 per share on February 26, 2021, after accounting for their 1-to-20 reverse stock split in 2023, giving the company a market cap of over $2 billion. That's right, $2 billion with a B. Now, not wanting to be outdone by all this success that Eargo was having, in 2021, Bose Ventures led an $8.3 million funding round to HearX Group to strengthen its hearing care strategy. In July of 2022, Bose transitioned its sound control hearing aid technology over to HearX and rebranded it the LXE B1 and LXE B2. Then in 2025, HearX merged with Eargo to form LXE Hearing. This merge was backed by a $100 million investment from Patient Square Capital, signaling that investors still believed that over-the-counter hearing aids represented the future of hearing healthcare. So basically, as recently as 18 months ago, investor groups were still pouring millions of dollars into what they believed to be the best over-the-counter hearing aids on the market. And all of this was despite a stock price of Eargo that had plummeted by over 99% from its original IPO before it was taken private again in 2024, which really should have been a signal that an iceberg was coming. Then we saw market track data come out in 2025 that showed us that hearing aid adoption rates were at 39% in the United States, which basically means that 39% of individuals who need hearing aids actually got hearing aids. However, if we go back to 2022, right before OTC hearing aids became an official category and were implemented, hearing aid adoption rates at that time were 38.4%. This means that after 3 years of OTC hearing aid availability, hearing aid adoption rates went up by 0.6%. They had only moved the needle 0.6%. And this is the exact moment that I realized I was completely wrong about everything when it came to over-the-counter hearing aids, and this news about LXE Hearing winding down US operations is proof of that. Now, if you go back and watch my videos from when all of this stuff was coming out, I was a vocal supporter of OTC devices. I thought they were going to be great. Not only was it going to regulate this previously unregulated market, I believed that they were going to encourage more people to adopt hearing aid treatment. I thought that they were going to be a great stepping stone for prescriptive care when individuals were ready and they got a taste of what better hearing was like. And yes, I thought that it was going to improve affordability of hearing aid technology. So what the heck happened? Why did investors lose billions of dollars? Why did hearing aid adoption rates basically not go up at all? And why is one of the biggest, most reputable OTC hearing aid brands in the entire world winding down US operations when they have basically unlimited capital to work with? Well, I actually think that there's 5 5 reasons, and I'm going to share those reasons with you here in just a second. But before I do, do me a huge favor and click the like button if you're enjoying this video. And if you're not yet subscribed to this channel with notifications turned on and you like this type of content, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. That being said, the first reason why I believe that over-the-counter hearing aids have been a complete failure in the United States is that individuals with mild to moderate hearing loss don't actually feel like they have a hearing loss yet. Despite the vast majority of individuals with hearing loss falling into the mild to moderate range, these are individuals who do not perceive that much hearing difficulty. People are generally willing to put up with a little bit of hearing difficulty, and despite how dangerous this is from an overall cognitive aspect, that's a future problem, and people don't try to solve future problems. People like to solve problems they're having right now. And if it's not a problem, they're not trying to solve it. So if people within the target market for over-the-counter hearing aids were not interested in over-the-counter hearing aids, who are actually purchasing them? Well, the second reason why over-the-counter hearing aids have not been successful in the United States is that the wrong people were actually buying them. Why? Because with all the hype, people thought that OTC hearing aids were actually an alternative to prescription level hearing aids, no matter what the severity of their hearing loss was. I noticed time and time again people coming into my clinic with their OTC hearing aids saying that they're not getting any benefit because they had a severe to profound level hearing loss, or some other type of funky hearing loss that hearing aids are not intended for at all. Essentially, people who had no business purchasing OTC hearing aids were the primary purchasers, and the problem is, those devices wouldn't work for them. And even if the individuals who purchased these OTC hearing aids were the right candidates for them, it wouldn't have mattered anyway, because reason number 3 that OTC hearing aids have failed in the United States is that they're all sizzle and no steak. Basically, OTC hearing aids were not even close to as good as advertised. I've probably reviewed more OTC hearing aids than anybody in the world at this point. I've reviewed Bose, LXE, Sony, Eargo, HP, Jabra. You name it, I've probably reviewed it. And literally every OTC hearing aid that I ever reviewed had major shortcomings. Now, to be fair, every prescription hearing aid that I've ever reviewed has had shortcomings, just not major ones in most cases. Were some of these over-the-counter hearing aids better than others? Yes. But none of them really lived up to the marketing hype, and honestly, none of them really lived up to the laboratory testing data. I mean, I've had some people post in my YouTube channel comment section about how much they love their over-the-counter hearing aids, but that is definitely the exception, not the rule. And even if the technology had lived up to the hype, I'm not sure it would have mattered anyway, because the fourth reason why OTC hearing aids have not succeeded in the United States is that there's no good value proposition. A pair of halfway decent OTC hearing aids will cost you around $1,000. For a couple hundred extra bucks, you could literally walk into any Costco hearing center or private practice audiology clinic and get a significantly better pair of prescription level hearing aids. Not to mention, these prescription hearing aids purchased from an actual clinic would come with a variety of in-person professional services. These would include diagnostic hearing testing, verification of programming, in-person follow-up care, validation outcome measures, and same-day repair services. None of which you can get from an OTC hearing aid company. And if you've been watching my channel for a while, you know that these services are even more important than the hearing aids you wear. And as a hearing care professional who tried to help patients of mine who came in with OTC hearing aids, I was not able to help them hear significantly better with that technology. So either the technology wasn't that good, or I just wasn't that good. But let's just assume that the technology was good and that the remote services that these OTC hearing aid companies offered was good as well. Doesn't matter, because reason number 5 that over-the-counter hearing aids have been an abject failure in the United States is that they're just not profitable for the companies that are selling them. The economic model for OTC hearing aids was doomed from the start. Just so you know, the cost to acquire a new patient inside of a private practice audiology clinic is anywhere between $500 to $1,000. Now, if you're a big box store like Costco, they're probably not spending any money to acquire a new patient because they have enough foot traffic inside of their warehouse locations. But unless you're Costco or you have a ton of organic online reach like I do with my YouTube channel, these companies were going to have to spend a lot of money to acquire a new patient. I mean, they were probably spending hundreds, if not thousands of dollars in marketing just to get a patient to purchase their devices. And if you don't have enough margin built into your product, you are not going to be profitable spending that kind of money to acquire a new user. And that's before all of your other expenses as a company, which includes staffing, research and development, and product repairs. Not to mention, there are some anecdotal reports out there that the return rates for OTC hearing aids was over 50%, meaning that over 50% of people who actually purchased those devices sent them back to the manufacturer because they didn't work and they got a full refund. Compare that return rate to a less than 3% return rate like we see in my clinic. I mean, heck, if our return rate inside of my clinic was 50% or more, we would not be in business either. To this day, the only hearing aid dispensing model that I'm aware of that has ever worked is the in-clinic dispensing model of prescription hearing aids by a hearing care professional. Now, don't get me wrong, I have my beef when it comes to the hearing aid industry and how hearing aids are dispensed in clinics. But you can't deny how successful that business model is, regardless of what you think about how much it costs to go that route. And the most successful clinics at doing this are the ones that follow comprehensive audiologic best practices, like you can find in my Hearing Up network. Unfortunately, that type of best practice care is not even possible in the OTC delivery model. Over 5 years ago, I thought that OTC hearing aids were going to completely change the landscape of hearing healthcare in a positive way. Today, what I really think is it just showed us how difficult treating hearing loss really is, and that the hearing aids themselves are just one small component of successful hearing treatment. Honestly, in a weird way, I think that we have a lot to thank LXE Hearing for. They showed us that you can't just throw money at a problem and expect that problem to be solved. Is it possible that there's a company out there that will figure out a way to make OTC hearing aids work? I truly think the answer to that is yes. But until they prove it, I'm no longer a believer in OTC hearing aids.